Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty much everyone bumps into.
Yeah,
Why people dig their heels in when change comes along in organizations.
right. And importantly, what leaders, maybe CEOs, maybe team leads, can actually do about it. How to help support and drive change instead of just hitting that wall of resistance.
Exactly. So whether you're, prepping for a meeting, trying to make sense of workplace dynamics, or just curious about how companies tick, this should give you some useful stuff to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's not just about people being difficult, is it? It often goes much deeper.
For sure. And to really get into it, we've been digging into a couple of things. New note, and also a really interesting YouTube video. It's from the Good Morning Enablement channel.
Ah, yes, featuring James Klason. That's Jameklason. He's got some serious experience in organizational development, change management, the works.
He really does. The video highlights his background places like Aon, where he's involved in creating Verizon,
Wow, okay.
a big software company in NYC, and Cedars-Sinai Health System, where he led this massive $100 million cost reduction thing and set up a new HR shared services center.
That's quite a range.
And most recently, ServiceNow, leading a super complex customer success transformation. Now he's got his own company, Onboard Business Solutions.
So he's seen it from the trenches, basically. He's dealt with the messy reality of change that makes his insights really practical, not just academic theory.
Totally. That's the goal here, right? To pull out those practical, actionable insights from his experience. So you, listening, can hopefully understand resistance better and maybe navigate it more effectively yourself.
Okay, let's get into it. James makes this point early on to understand why people resist. You can't just look at the change itself. You have to look at, us. Human behavior.
Right. And he brings in ideas from all over, doesn't he? Like neuroscience.
Yeah, how our brains are actually wired to react to change. And behavioral economics.
Like loss aversion. That idea that losing something feels way worse than gaining something of equal value.
Exactly. And status quo bias, we just prefer things to stay the same, generally. Plus, organizational design, how the company structure itself plays a role.
He name-dropped some key thinkers, too. Richard Beckert, John Cotter, foundational change management folks.
Process, 80-car model, awareness, desire, knowledge.
Ability reinforcement. Yeah, that framework for individual change.
Chris Worley, David Rock, especially David Rock's work on the neuroscience side of things.
And it's not just individuals. He touches on engagement theories, too, like Hackman and Oldman's job characteristics model. What actually makes a job motivating?
Or Daniel Pink's stuff, autonomy, mastery, purpose, those intrinsic drivers. It's a whole ecosystem influencing how people respond.
It really paints a bigger picture. It's not just one thing causing resistance.
Absolutely. And James points out something interesting. The company's culture can actually be a predictor of resistance. Like, you can sometimes feel it in the air before a specific change even starts.
He uses that iceberg analogy, right?
Yeah, the classic iceberg. What you see, the behaviors, the explicit complaints, that's just the tip.
The small part above the water.
Right. But underneath the huge hidden part, that's the mentalities, the shared values, the deep-seated beliefs. That's often where the real resistance is anchored.
That makes sense. Things like a legacy of failure. If past changes crashed and burned.
People get cynical, right? Oh, here we go again. But interestingly, he says too much success can also cause resistance.
How so?
Well, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. We're successful doing it this way. Why change? It breeds complacency, makes people protective of the status quo.
So past failures and past successes can both feed into it. Okay, so he then gets really practical outlining these resistance plays he's seen.
Yeah, common patterns. Play number 1 is blaming a lack of readiness on training and communication.
The nobody told me, or I wasn't trained properly defense.
Exactly. And he notes, sometimes the people saying this were actually involved in the planning. It can be incredibly frustrating.
So it's less about the actual training plan and more a symptom of something else. Maybe they don't grasp the new process, or maybe some key group was missed.
Could be. Or just general anxiety about the change manifesting as a procedural complaint. It can definitely slow things down.
Okay, what's the next play?
He calls it the busy bee scenario. This happens a lot in big cross-functional projects.
Okay.
Where the big boss, the executive sponsor, delegates someone from their team to be on the project.
Right, got it.
But that delegated person is, swamped. They don't show up to meetings, or they're multitasking the whole time, not really contributing.
So it's passive resistance. They're not actively fighting it, but they're not helping it move forward either, like a bottleneck.
Precisely. It's subtle, hard to call out directly sometimes, but it starves the project of necessary input from their area. James points out it might signal they feel undervalued or don't see the project's relevance to them.
That's a key insight. It's not just busyness. It's about engagement and perceived value. Okay, the third one.
This one sounds dramatic. Gladiator games.
Okay.
This is about senior leaders. They might say all the right things publicly. Yes, great project, fully support it. But behind the scenes, they might be pushing their own team's priorities or trying to tweak the project to benefit their specific area.
Like trying to add amendments to a bill, like he said. Yeah. Shifting the focus.
Exactly his analogy. It can pull the project off course from its original goals, the core business outcomes it was supposed to deliver. And this resistance is coming from the inside, from leadership.
Wow. Okay, so those are some pretty recognizable patterns.
Yeah.
What about solutions? How do you counter these plays for the blaming training one?
He stresses having a really solid training and comms plan right from the get-go. That's table stakes.
But the key is,
it can't just be a document you create and forget. It needs to be reviewed constantly, iterated on with all the key stakeholders, especially the steering committee. Keep it visible, keep confirming, understanding.
So you preempt the I didn't know argument by making sure they did know repeatedly. Makes sense. What about the busy bee? The disengaged delegate? That sounds trickier.
It is. James admits it's tough. His suggestion is interesting, though. Instead of just complaining, try to negotiate.
Negotiate what?
Talk to the person. Talk to their manager. See if you can redefine their role in the project. Maybe make them a more visible lead for their area's contribution. Give them more authority, more ownership.
So try to increase their stake in the game. Make it more central to their success.
Yeah, foster that engagement by making them feel more critical to the outcome, not just a reluctant participant. It's about tapping into that need for status or autonomy, maybe.
Interesting approach.
Oh.
Okay, and countering the gladiator games, the leaders with agendas.
Early detection is key.
Yeah.
You need to spot when the project's focus starts drifting, and the main tool is constant reinforcement of the original business goals.
Keep bringing it back to the why.
Exactly. What did we agree this project was meant to achieve? Remind everyone consistently, and be disciplined about scope.
So those side requests or pet projects.
Push them off, put them in a parking lot, or schedule them for phase 2 after you've delivered the core minimal viable product, the MVP. Get that initial win, build momentum, then consider addition.
Maintain focus. Got it. So beyond these specific tactics, James brings up a broader framework for understanding the psychology of it all. David Rock's SCAR-ARF model.
Yes, SCAR-F. It's an acronym. Status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness.
Okay.
The idea, drawing from neuroscience, is that our brains are constantly scanning social situations for threats or rewards related to these 5 areas. Change often feels like a threat to one or more of them.
So a change might threaten someone's perceived status in the organization, or reduce their certainty about the future.
Precisely. Or limit their autonomy, their sense of control over their work, or damage their sense of relatedness, their connection to colleagues, or feel unfair.
And when those threat responses get triggered,
that's when you see defensiveness, disengagement, resistance. Understanding SCARF can help leaders anticipate why people might react negatively and design the change process to minimize those threats, maybe even enhance the rewards.
It provides a deeper lens, doesn't it? It's not just about process, it's about fundamental human needs.
Yeah.
We probably can't do SCARF full justice right now.
No, it's a whole topic in itself. But James definitely flags it as valuable. He mentions Dr. David Rock and the Neuro Leadership Institute. If you want to learn more, we should definitely put a link up for that.
Good idea. Okay, so wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways from James Klason's insights?
Well, I think number 1 is that resistance is complex. It's not simple stubbornness. It's rooted in human behavior, culture, past experiences, that whole iceberg thing.
Right, and recognizing the common ways it shows up, those plays, can help you identify it earlier.
Yeah, and then having proactive strategies is key, especially around communication, making it robust, ongoing, and two-way, and engagement, finding ways to give people ownership.
And maintaining that laser focus on the original why, the business outcome, especially when things get complicated or political, like dealing with those gladiator games.
Absolutely. And finally, considering those deeper psychological drivers, maybe using something like the Sararoff model, can give leaders, CEOs included, a much better handle on navigating the human side of change.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. In your world, your team, your organization, can you start to spot those potential iceberg issues, those hidden beliefs or subtle resistance patterns before they become major roadblocks.
Yeah. And maybe think about how a change you're involved in might be triggering threat responses in terms of status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, or fairness for different people. How could SCARF help you anticipate or mitigate that?
It's definitely about tuning into that human element more deeply.
For sure. If this stuff interests you, there's tons more out there on change management and organizational development. Keep exploring. And like we said, we'll link to more on SCARFM.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive today. Hopefully it's given you some valuable perspectives on a really common and often tricky challenge.